Wow, it's a bit dark over here, but anyway, today's video is about this new particular bike that I found on the internet very recently. A little bit backstory about why this video came about in the first place. So basically I was in the office and I have a bit of back pains because I ride a mountain bike and I fell before, so I injured my back and my foot is not very good. So I'm thinking of actually next year maybe changing my ZX-6R, which is super sport, to something more comfortable. So in between, I'm actually kind of looking between the Z900 and 2020 model and the new Vespa GTS 300 HPE. So in between looking for these two bikes, especially the Vespa in particular, I kind of stumbled across an Indian news outlet and I saw this really weirdly familiar design on an Indian bike, and when I clicked on it, I realized that there was something new in India that nobody is talking about, at least as I see it in Singaporean media or pretty much the rest of the world. But this particular bike is pretty much only talked about in India itself, and it's the Bajaj Chetak. Now, the Bajaj Chetak is very interesting to me because number one, first of all, it's a small Vespa-like scooter, which I really love the look of, and of course ergonomics. It's really good for my back right now. And I am a huge proponent of electric vehicles, and that is the selling point that got me very, very interested in the Bajaj Chetak, because it is an electric scooter. Now, as you can see, I ride electric vehicles and I love them a lot, so it got me very interested, and I dug deeper into it. Now, the funny thing is that nobody outside of India seems to be talking about it, even in Singapore, and that kind of puzzles me, because I understand Singaporeans in general aren't interested in electric vehicles, especially if it's a motorcycle or a car. We've got quite a huge uptake of electric bicycles, electric scooters, things that can be brought up to your house to be charged. The only problem is that in Singapore we have a unique issue in that the vast majority of people live in high-rise apartments where you can't necessarily bring your car or your motorcycle up to charge on the wall outlet, and there is not enough infrastructure to kind of support that. So I don't really expect Singaporeans to be talking about it. The funny thing is that when the Tesla came out, when the Zero came out, when the Vespa Electrica came out, people were talking about those vehicles all over Singaporean automotive media. The whole world was talking about, in the US, in Europe, in Australia. Everybody was talking about these vehicles. Now, granted that these three vehicles in particular are kind of exotic performance vehicles, so they are in a class of their own. But even when the Nissan Leaf, the funny thing is that a lot of this Zero, Electrica and Tesla is kind of rare in Singapore, but when a Nissan Leaf came out, Nissan Leafs actually had a number of people buying them. And in fact, the Nissan Leaf itself is also more closely related in price to the average car that Singaporeans would buy. And people talked about the Nissan Leaf too. So the funny thing is, right here, looking at the Bajaj website for the Chetak, it's telling me the Chetak is costing 2,000 Sing dollars, or 1 lakh, which is 100,000 rupees in India. So if you brought it to Singapore, how much could it cost? Even if you gave it 100% tax, 4,000 bucks, and 3,000 COE on top of that, 7,000, 9,000. It's almost the price of an average 2B motorcycle in Singapore, way cheaper than pretty much most Vespas, and you get that unique Vespa look in the Chetak. Of course, the Chetak has a history of being basically a Vespa clone in general, but I don't know, Vespas are so popular in Singapore, and for a bike of this price, that's so cheap. Even though I don't expect people to buy one of these, it's funny that nobody's talking about it. Like what's it? The Electrica is 130 kilos, by the way. So if you think about it, the Chetak is probably going to weigh about 130 kilos. So if you lived, say, somewhere where there is a wall outlet on the ground floor, or especially if you live in a condo, or if you work at certain places like the high flux building, there is ground level wall outlets. I don't see why there wouldn't be maybe like 5 to 2% of the entire riding population that might be actually seriously interested in this bike, because it's not really difficult to actually push this thing to a ground floor wall outlet and get it charged. It's 1.9 meters long, by the way, just like the Vespa Electrica was 1.9 meters, so I expect the Chetak to be about the same. So pushing it around wouldn't be a problem. The motor is a 4,000 watt motor, 4 kilowatts. So 4,000 watt. So I think that would actually kind of bring you quite easily to maybe 80-90 kilometers an hour. Singapore doesn't really have that many high-speed roads in the first place. So 90 kilometers an hour top speed is kind of acceptable. Most 125s and 50cc scooters probably reach about the same speed anyway, and people use it in Singapore all the time because we are city and small bikes like this are really practical. So as far as I can see it, the only downside is that at full charge on eco mode, the Chetak only has about a 95 kilometer range, which really puts some people off. But if you think about it, if you are the kind of person that lives in a condo or works in a building that has a ground floor charging station, you just ride to your office or ride home, plug it in, and you never have to actually worry about needing to go to a gas station in the first place. So because we are city, it's 95 kilometers an hour is only about a week's worth commute in Singapore for most people, and the charge only takes 5 hours, so it's not really a big deal. So of course, unlikely to have an removable battery just like the Electrica doesn't have one, so obviously you can't bring it up to your house, but like I said, it shouldn't be an issue. Now, if we were to go into the specs, this is where I am really, really interested in, because on electric cars and hybrid cars, you got things like regenerative braking, which is really, really awesome in extending the range. So that's the thing about the Chetak. The Chetak is really small, so it doesn't really have the same kind of a battery capacity as the Zero FX, for example. So the Zero can probably reach maybe about 170 to 190 kilometers an hour, but the Chetak with its small battery still manages to probably eke out 95 kilometers an hour because it has regenerative braking, which is amazing considering the price, considering the size of the vehicle, and considering where it's made in. It's surprising actually. And to top it off, it actually has a reverse gear, which, come on, when was the last time you actually saw a motorcycle or scooter, no matter be it electric or IC, ever have a reverse gear? The Zero doesn't even have a reverse gear. The only reverse gear motorcycle I've seen with my own two eyes in real life was the Honda Goldwing, and that was because it was really necessary. You couldn't get anywhere on a Goldwing without a reverse gear, but the Chetak has a reverse gear as an added bonus. You don't need it, but it's great because especially if you live in Singapore or you live in India, basically any city in general where there's underground parking and you have ever gotten into the problem where the the parking gantry was right in front of a downward slope, and as you pass it, the gantry just doesn't work, either because motorcycles are not supposed to park there, or the gantry has broken down, and you know that it's impossible to push a 200 kilo motorcycle backwards up the slope, especially if your front is already facing so close to that gantry wall, and you start pushing the button and asking somebody to come down and save you. But for the Chetak, you probably don't even have to do that. You just reverse, put out you go, where you came, and then you just find another basement parking. Great feature to have. So another feature that kind of interests me is the Bluetooth app connectivity, like what I saw with the 2020 Z900. I kind of am interested in the Z900, the 2020 Z900 as well, because of their Bluetooth app connectivity. And yeah, I mean, I don't really think I need it, but it sounds kind of cool, because I'm not sure what the app entails. You could probably help you track your GPS coordinates, stuff like that. I know the Z900's app mostly controls parts of the engine's performance curve, but in a very limited fashion, and then a lot of unnecessary stuff. But it's nice to have, those kind of things, especially if you're going out of the city and you just want to track where you've been and all that sort of thing, and then see how many miles you've gone for that particular trip. Is really fun to have. Not necessary, but it's interesting to see. So that's the thing. It's such an interesting bike, but nobody's talking about it. So maybe by talking about this Vespa Chetak, it might pique your interest. I don't expect a lot of people in Singapore to buy it, but probably Malaysians in general might find it quite useful, especially if you live in Penang or Kuala Lumpur and you pretty much just need something to commute around. So it is a cheap alternative to having a Vespa in these countries, especially Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand. I mean, there are cheaper options, but I mean, if you want that iconic Vespa look, but not pay the Vespa price, is a great thing for Malaysians, Indonesians, and Thai to take a look at it. And this whole charging issue probably doesn't faze them as much as Singaporeans are facing, because a lot of those who live in cities probably are living in condos with ground level charging, and those that are not living in cities, they probably live on the ground level in the first place with their own wall outlet. So it's probably a good thing, although those people that do not live in cities probably can't even afford this, even though it's really, really cheap. But 2,000 is still more than a $500 kapchai, or underbone as we call it in English, in Malaysia or Thailand. So yeah, I think this is interesting. Hopefully it gets a huge uptake in the countries surrounding Singapore, and it will be even greater if that huge uptake in amongst our neighbors kind of pressures Singapore to also improve its electric vehicle infrastructure to allow a higher uptake of electric vehicles as well. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Peace out. Bye bye.